Hey guys, it's Andy here, and this is going to be a bit of a different one, hence the different intro. So, I sat down to record this because in the last couple of days, I got two really cool emails from guys. And I get plenty of emails from guys who say, your website's helped me, blah, blah, blah. And I really appreciate those emails. They really genuinely make my day, especially as a content creator. There are a lot of times where you sort of wonder if your stuff is helping people, if you're going in the right direction, if you're kind of just yelling into the void, or if people are actually getting a lot out. And I'm really blessed that you guys are very genuine with your feedback. You're very genuine at telling me, your stuff has really helped me. I really appreciate that. And that shit really means a lot. It's probably the only reason that I keep doing this, right? But these two emails, one in particular, just affected me a hell of a lot more, particularly the really long one. So one of them was so long that this guy actually wrote me a fucking 6-page letter. And when I say 6 pages, I have it here on my phone. It's literally 6 pages of there has to be 6,000 words here. It's very deep. He explains everything, how much my website has helped him. And it really fucking affected me, in a really positive way. And then there's a second email from someone else who came at the exact same time. And he's talking about, the same sort of stuff. He was going through this long dry spell. And so 5-year dry spell this guy was going through. And he's now got 3 girls that he has sex with. And he's really happy. And he was telling me, everything that's going good in his life. And these two emails both really came at a time where I think I needed to hear them because I've been a bit stressed about paying the bills over the last few months. I'm in that precarious position where I can't rest on my heels because some months you can pay the bills, some months you can't. Overall, there's a trend of I can pay the bills, but it's certainly not a time where I can feel comfortable. I certainly don't feel comfortable at all. And so I've obviously been pushing my coaching. I've been pushing the Winners Club. I've been mentioning Patreon, all the stuff that you're trying to do when you're trying to monetize your content so that you can pay the goddamn bills. It does feel like there's this hard balance between being selfish in order to handle your own needs so that you can literally pay the rent versus giving value to others. So if you go too far in one direction, you can become a bit of a sellout and some of your helpful information can become diluted. If you go too far in the other direction, and you give 100% selflessly, you help a ton of people, but you can't sleep at night because you have the stress of not paying bills, wondering if you're going to be able to make rent. You're basically neglecting your own needs and trying to be Mr. Altruistic who helps other people. You can't help as many other people if you're too selfless. You can't. You don't have as much to give. So there's this balance between trying to be a bit selfish so that you have more to give to other people versus not going too far in that direction. So this has been a long learning process for me. It's something I'm still figuring out. Some months I do go too far in one direction. Sometimes I go too far in the other. And a big part of the reason that I'm having this or that I'm saying this podcast to you is because I'll see if I can find it. In the 6-page email that this guy sent me, or one of these two guys sent me, I'm never going to be able to find it. It's really long. But he basically said, I really appreciate how honest you are and how vulnerable you are and how you make it clear that you're not a finished work in progress and that you're still working on all this stuff. And so that's why I'm doing this podcast today, because I thought, whatever. I love you guys. I love my audience. I'd rather be honest and real. And I do kind of like having these conversations, saying what's on my mind, kind of talking you through my own learning process and my own thinking process. Because right now I'm figuring out how to make money, right? This is me building my business up so that I can pay the rent, so that I can pay the bills, so I can give more to you guys and provide more value, help more people, all that kind of stuff. We're trying to build a community here, basically. And so this is me in that learning process. There's a reason that I haven't done any podcasts on how to make money. I don't give any advice on how to make money, right? Because I don't know, because I'm still figuring it out. So I kind of like putting that out there. I like being able to put that out there. I've had some advice from other people who say, don't put any of this out there. Don't be this vulnerable, especially when it comes to making money. Don't be real. Just not so much lying, but just like hold back on this stuff. And I tried that for a while. I kind of don't like how it feels. It makes me, it goes kind of counter to most of my advice. It makes me feel like I'm not on the same team as you guys. Like, it very much makes me feel like there's this divide between me and you, and I'm like the content creator, and you guys are just my, consumers or whatever you want to call it. I don't really like that. So I thought I'd sit down and do this podcast and kind of say what's on my mind, talk you through my own learning process, my own thinking process. I think that's more helpful to you guys so that you can see, oh shit, this guy's not perfect. I mean, I make it pretty clear I'm not perfect, but this guy's not perfect with his money and with building a business either. And when I eventually get to a point where I'm very successful, you guys will be able to see the path. It's like, oh, look at all the struggles he had. Look how many times he said that he wasn't sure if he could make it. Look how many times he said, like, fuck, I don't know what to do. Like, look how many times he talked us through his thinking process and, how do I balance being selfish versus like giving value? Like, I feel like this will be valuable to a lot of people who want to do the same thing. Maybe in future, if you're working on your sex life right now, maybe in future you decide to start your own business, you go back and listen to some of these and you're like, man, Andy really struggled, didn't he? And it's like, yeah, just like with getting girls, I really fucking struggled. And that's part of the process. I think one of the most helpful things that I tell people, whether it's on my forums or in a coaching call or just, in general, when they're going through a struggle, it's so easy to do. I'll just give them an example. I'll say like, oh, here's an example of how I struggled just like you are. And I struggled, like this morning, someone on our forum said like, man, I'm really struggling to talk to girls. I walk around for hours and I don't talk to a single one. And then I'm like, yeah, man, I had so many days where I walked around for 4 hours and didn't talk to a single girl. And just hearing that, every time someone hears that, they're like, oh shit. They always reply, oh shit, yeah, oh, I didn't know that you struggled that much. That makes me feel better. So I feel like sharing my struggles is incredibly beneficial to a lot of you. Also, because I think it ties into the notions that we've all talked about many times of like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be like Mr. Big, strong alpha. It's okay to be a bit of a fuck up sometimes. As long as you're always moving forwards, you're always handling your shit. You always have like roughly a plan of where you're going, or at least like you're working towards something. So yeah. I will also say so the eventual goal is to get to a point where I can focus 100% on like helping you guys and not having to worry about monetization or paying the fucking bills. I don't think that's a possibility anytime soon, as in, what do I mean here? So my eventual goal is to get to a point where I have passive income so that I can just focus 100% on the Kill Your Inner Loser website and this podcast. And so that passive income will be like outside of that. I've already set up 2 YouTube channels for completely unrelated projects to this. I don't want to talk about them yet. Some of you already know what they are because you've managed to find them. But I plan on setting up like passive income. My girlfriend Imogen is doing the same thing. She set up her own YouTube channel. And so between those 3, we have 3 new YouTube channels that we're going to work on. We're going to monetize those. Those will be like passive income streams. That will probably take like a year or 2, probably a couple of years to be honest, to get to a point where they pay any sort of reasonable income. It's very doable. We've done a lot of research. I know it's going to work, but that's more like a long-term plan. So when I get to that point, that'll be cool because then I can be Mr. Selfless. I get to give 100% to all my content and only focus on the content. I think that's more like a long-term project though. And if you're setting up your own like content creation business, again, take this advice. I just kicked the camera. That was a bit silly. Take this advice with a grain of salt, bearing in mind that I haven't fully made it to where I want to be. But if you are a content creator, one of the early bits of advice that I figured out for myself was it's probably a lot easier to just do what I've done. If you're making content creation like consulting, as in doing coaching calls or just giving paid advice or, selling books or like ebooks or whatever, or creating a video course or something like consulting, like selling your knowledge is probably the easiest way to monetize your content early on. And then eventually you can build up Patreon, you can build up passive income, you can monetize, you can get sponsors and all that kind of stuff. But starting the way I did is probably fairly easy. Now it's hard work because you have to actually be a coach and you have to actually give advice. That shit's hard. Not everyone is great at that, but there's plenty of different options there. Again, this is all if you're a content creator and you're just starting. Again, bear in mind, I haven't fully made it, so take that advice with a grain of salt. So in the last few months, I do feel like I've gone a little too. I feel like I'm in danger of going too far in the money pushing side of things. I feel like I'm going too far in that direction of where I have to because when I sit down to come up with a project for the last 2 or 3 months, I've been thinking, will this make me any money? And now I have to do that. I have to be selfish in order to pay the bills. I do need to be thinking about money all the time. I think I'm right on the cusp of going too far in that direction, though. I could definitely see myself going too far in that direction over the next few months. So I'm trying to pull it back a little bit. That's why I said this month I want to focus on some topics about sex. Because I know that sex is the main reason most guys come to my website. I know that some people start their own business. I know some people are there to be content creators. I know some people are there for fitness, but most people are there for sex. That's kind of the main topic that I talk about. So I'll focus on more topics of that this month. And I'm also going to do a few more beginner-friendly podcasts about getting laid on Tinder, improving yourself, stuff like that. So I plan on going through the Tinder guide and fleshing out some of those ideas a little bit so they can be bite-sized podcasts or YouTube videos on how to meet women, how to get laid, how to go, what to do on dates, what to say, what conversation do you have, how do you invite her back to your place, how do you start with self-improvement, how do you improve your looks, all of that kind of stuff. So that'll be fun. I'll be focusing on the kind of content that I think will help you guys the most, or will help the most people. Now, obviously, some of you are way past that newbie beginner stage, but there are a hell of a lot of guys that are still in the beginner stages. And this podcast, I think if you go back and look at the last 220 episodes, most of them haven't really been targeted towards hardcore beginners. That's kind of what my website and my Tinder guide is for. So I want to do open it up a little bit and have a few more. Don't worry, I'll still cover all the advanced stuff and fucking threesomes and BDSM and sex stories and cool shit like that. I'm just going to do I'm going to sprinkle in a couple more newbie beginner friendly podcasts, a little bit more about sex, stuff like that. So if there is a topic that you guys would like me to cover, you're welcome to leave a comment or shoot me a message. I'll see what I can do. Now, I do have to, in the interest of honesty, I do have to kind of balance that, because part of my Patreon is if you're signed up for the higher tiers, you get to ask me questions and I will do a podcast on it. So I have to be fair to those guys, because there are some guys that are literally giving me money in order for me to do a podcast episode around their questions. So if you guys do give me a topic you'd like me to cover, I got to kind of balance that. What am I trying to say? There's no guarantees. That's not even the best way of phrasing it. There's no absolute guarantees that if you give me a topic and you're not on my Patreon, that I will do a podcast on it. However, I will try, right? I'll figure out some way. Maybe I'll do half an episode if it's just a simple topic. Or if you give me a topic idea and I really like that idea and was probably going to do it anyway, then I will. I'm just letting you guys know I have to kind of balance that to be fair to my Patreons, because they are literally giving me money. And so that would be unfair on them to say hey, that thing that you guys are giving me money for, I'm going to do for free for everyone else. So I'll find some way of making it fair. But yeah, if there is a topic you guys would like me to cover, maybe if a bunch of people mention that, maybe that's a better way of doing it. If a couple of you have the same topic idea or the same general topic idea, I will do a podcast on it, because then it's kind of fair. It's there's multiple people asking about this. However, if it's just one person who says, hey, can you do this idea? Maybe I won't do that. You're always welcome to join my Patreon if you guys want to. And then I can literally do an episode no matter what your question is. So that's about all I wanted to say today. Adios, amigos.